correspondence that I've seen have mostly been CSAC and RCRC.
Okay, because I consider this bill a direct shift from the initial strategy of our governor to attach fees to insurance on homes in those same areas. That was defeated as an actual tax, and that's the reason that failed. I see this as a shift. I still see it as a tax, and I concur that we need to be in opposition of that until we have a voice of the people saying, we understand the situation, we understand the reason to raise dollars, but we want to have a say in this as taxes fall under Prop 218. And this is an ongoing discussion of SRA fees. It's been probably 4 or 5 years now that this has been discussed. So
one comment I might have is some of the correspondence that I've seen going back and forth on the most recent version of the bill is that that the exact amount of the fee certain parties are saying is not exactly specified. And when I read the bill, I can't tell what would exactly be the specified amount within the bill also. So there's a major problem with that. The other problem that I'm seeing with the bill is it's just for people who have developed property, but there are acres and acres of undeveloped property in this area of state responsibility. And in our county, we have a large portion of federal land that CAL FIRE at times responds to fires in the federal lands also, and those lands would not be covered under this bill. Fundamentally, under the county's legislative program, we would oppose this bill that it is an unfunded state mandate would be is the underpinning of our legislative program for opposition.
Thank you, Supervisor Colfax.
Yes, about 10 days ago, Supervisor Pinches and our CEO and I sat with some of the staff of RCRC, and they were adamant about the inequities that this would generate, even if it were to move forward. And many of the points have been raised by staff here, as well as Supervisor Wattenberger, were anticipated. But they also indicated that this creates a bit of a issue in terms of addressing questions of support for emergency services and fire services. And this would be a diversion, and it would probably divert funds out of Mendocino County to the Southlands, where the population and many of the problems are getting more attention. So I think strong opposition to this item is desirable. On the other hand, I think we need to continue to look at options with regard to funding for fire districts and emergency services district here in Mendocino County. And this one creates some problems that we have to, I think, revisit in the near future.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Pinches.
I'd like to remind 2 years ago, the state of California state legislature passed a law that imposed a 3% gross, it's basically a sales tax on non-resident owned properties, that when people sell a piece of property in the state of California that's not where their primary residence, they have to pay a 3% gross tax to the franchise state board directly. It goes right out of escrow. And I don't know what the argument for this tax was, but it's really, it basically affects rural lands because that's where your high percentage of non-resident properties are. So where this money, and it's bringing in billions of dollars, not millions, but billions, where this is going, I don't know. That'd be the first question I'd ask. This is a completely new tax, a new funding source, and a major funding source, and I guess it's just blended in the general fund, but it's certainly some of that money could have been used for emergency services. But it wasn't very well publicized. The title companies, when the piece of property is sold, collect some money, and there's not been much talk about it. But it's a huge revenue generator for the state. But the state's got this reputation, well, the reason we're in the shape we're in, we haven't raised taxes, but the fact of the matter is, they have.
Well, and to finish up my comments, not to be taken in any way, shape, or form, I'm not supportive of fire agencies, let alone CAL FIRE. But as CAL FIRE has evolved, the real root of this problem is their funding. And their funding comes out of the general fund, and they need to find a way to remove themselves from the general fund and be a regular receptor of tax dollars other than general fund for a permanent funding source. And history has shown hills and valleys in their funding and augmentation bills, etc. And this is an effort to solidify their permanent funding. I just personally don't believe that fees are the way to go. The taxpayers need to have a say in this to recognize CAL FIRE as the state's fire department and fund it as such. And this is an effort to try and do that. I just believe it's the incorrect way to do it. So I concur that we need to strongly oppose this bill, and maybe even start suggesting that the governor come up with a transparent way to fully tax the agency in the way it should be, and quit pulling these games of fees versus taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So just get off the pot and start recognizing the service that they do provide. So, Mr. Kaler, any additional ledge?
Just one more comment, Mr. Chair. Speaking of fire bills, just so the board knows, on Monday, May 5th, at 1:30, this county's sponsored fire bill, AB 1890, will have its hearing in Sacramento. I'm planning on traveling to Sacramento with Chief Little from Laytonville, and I'm sure if there's a supervisor who has time in their schedule on that day that would like to accompany me, your presence and possible testimony at a hearing in Sacramento would be appreciated.
Any takers on the invitation from the board?
When is that?
It's Monday, May 5th. Plan is to travel down in the morning, attend the hearing, and then travel back that afternoon.
Well, if no volunteers are stepping forward today.
If I'm available, I would know that.
Thank you, Supervisor.
You bet. I think it'd be very advantageous to have one of us there. So check your schedules and coordinate with Mr. Kaler. You want to go over your report now, or you want to wait until after lunch break?
I think we may have a crowd this afternoon, so if you don't mind, I'll do it really quickly. Just some highlights in the CEO's report that I thought you might be interested in. Note on page 2, the Little Hoover Commission hearing. They're talking about water on April 24th in the Capitol. They're looking at the governance structure on the State Water Resources Control Board and 9 regional water quality boards. I thought that might be something interesting for our water agency director to monitor what's going on in that particular item. AB 900, which is the infamous reentry facilities. I've given you some correspondence attached to the back of this. You can see the entire list of which counties actually did submit, and it's kind of a mishmash in a lot of different areas. I did get an email early this morning that Secretary Tilton of CDCR has announced that he's going to be retiring for health reasons in early May. And I think sometimes any job in government could require health reasons, but that may change the mix of what's happening in there. But it's just an interesting list for your information. Another item on some of the challenges that we're continuing to experience in the PEG RFP process, and they do need a permanent source of funding. We're continuing to work with the city of Ukiah on that. Also, make note of